Good morning, everybody. I'm glad that you could join us for our live stream this morning. Boy, didn't our world just change on a sixpence over the last couple of weeks. So we're here to sort of help you navigate through the changes for our schools and for our students. So let's get started. I'd like to acknowledge that today our meeting is on the land of the Darug people, and we acknowledge that they are the traditional custodians of this land, and I welcome all Aboriginal people to our meeting today and welcome everybody else as well. All right, let's get started. In this world we've got student responsibilities which are no different to the ones that they had when they were here at school. It's just that the monitoring now is from the students themselves, in addition to what the teachers are doing. So we're expecting them to access the Department of Education emails and Canvas every day between 8:45 and 3 p.m, or they are to be accessing the paper-based learning that has been provided if they are without access to online learning. So it's really important that students follow their timetabled lessons and complete the work that's posted on Canvas, or complete the paper-based learning that's been provided for them for each of those periods in the day. So that students don't feel overwhelmed, it's important that they don't move ahead and complete more work than is scheduled for the day, even though they may have access to the next period's work. It's important that their 50 minutes of learning per subject that's on their timetable is what's required. So it's important that students are accessing and completing the work, and that they're sending that work into their teachers either online or by dropping the work off at school, or by sending it through Australia Post if there's concerns about contracting the virus. So we'd like to see students who are delivering work to our school do that on a Friday by 3 o'clock, so that teachers can work through and give you some feedback on that learning through the next week. So teachers also have responsibilities in this space, and it's important that we continue to deliver really quality online learning for all of our students. So what we know is that students will have access to their teachers during their timetabled lessons, either by phone or by email, and that teachers will provide clarification on learning and feedback, and they will also check in with the students, because what we know is that this change has happened really rapidly, and that our students and our teachers are going to miss the relationship, that learning relationship that they have with each other. And so it's important that we maintain that, and we have regular check-ins even though it's online or over the phone. And so our teachers will provide quality online and offline learning activities for students. Not all of our learning, particularly in our practical subjects, will be online. It will be, obviously the information may well be online or on paper, but the actual activities may not be in front of the computer. So you can imagine that PDHPE and the practical component of that subject obviously won't necessarily be online. Teachers will let their students know of their availability. If a teacher is sick and is not online for their scheduled lesson, then students will know that the teacher will message them, and if there are concerns from people who are operating through the paper-based learning, then you can let the school know. We need to follow up with students who are not learning, just as we would if students were here at school. So the follow-up takes different forms, and we'll talk through that in terms of the attendance requirements for students through this online or remote learning phase. And teachers will do what they have always done, which is mark work they will provide feedback, and they will recognise the achievements of students through our merit system. And so students and parents can expect that they will receive notifications through the student and parent portal, particularly if there has been positive recognition of students' learning. Parent responsibilities, they're very much the same as they've always been as well. It's just that the supervision of the students is now with parents and not with teachers. So it's important that you let us know if your child is sick and unable to complete work on a particular day, because we are still recording sick and leave through our systems. It's also really important that your child is engaged in their learning in every subject on their timetable from Monday to Friday. I know that in talking to a few students myself, that they're keen to complete, say, their maths if that's their favourite subject, but not so keen to engage with their English work. So please make sure that in your supervision of your students that they're completing all of their work according to their timetable, and that way we know that we're going to get a really even spread across their learning. Let your teacher know if they're experiencing difficulty engaging in the learning activities in that online environment. We know that some of our students really struggle in this space, and that over this last week we've had lots of students reach out to get clarification and to get extra assistance. And please make sure that your students don't feel like they have to navigate this alone. Teachers are available to students just as they always have been. And so the first port of call if your child's experiencing difficulties in a particular subject is with the teacher of that subject. But if the difficulty is across a wide range of subjects and that remote learning is really difficult for your child, then the learning and support faculty are the people that you can reach out to, and they will provide support across all of the subjects. So the new normal for us is, for a little while, is going to be this remote learning, whether it's online or offline learning in terms of paper-based or through our learning management systems, Canvas for most of our students, and some of our Year 12s are persisting with the old system that we had used, which was Edmodo or Google Classrooms. This year we've moved to a new learning management system, Canvas, because it is one of the tools that would enable us to deliver really good quality online learning, and had distinct advantages to learning in terms of the way that tool is set up. And so it's been a steep learning curve for our staff. We did have significant professional learning happening on Canvas, and we weren't quite ready to roll out as fast as we have had to in the last couple of weeks. But I'd really like to acknowledge the fact that our teachers have met this challenge, and they have really enjoyed the process of learning something different, and seeing the difference between the old learning management systems that they were using and Canvas. They could see the quality that it built in for our students, and so they were really keen to push hard, to learn quickly, and to have learning materials available for our students. And look, I know that it's going to get better and better because of the commitment our staff have to quality learning for our students. So if it's a little bit clunky in the early stages, be patient, we'll get there, but please let us know if you're having troubles with any aspect, because if we know, then we can troubleshoot and we will be able to resolve those issues. So, as I said, students will be closely monitored to ensure that they're engaging in learning at home, and the Department of Education requires us to monitor whether students are accessing their work. And what will happen is that Teachers will judge student attendance based on the learning that they've completed. And so right now, all of our students are marked as being having flexible attendance. And so this code is applied when there is a government directed absence from school. And this stays in place whilst ever we can see that students are completing their work. When a student is absent from school, and there's a typo there that I can see, then a student is not completing the assigned work. And so our teachers will be monitoring period by period whether students are completing their work. If we can see that that's not happening, then the student will be placed as absent from school, and we will make contact with families to help to support you to get your student back engaged in their learning. If your child is sick, it's important that you notify the school, because obviously when they're sick, they're not expected to complete work. If there's a medical appointment that your child has to attend during the school day whilst they're at home, then please let us also know of that, and that will be recorded as leave. So our assessment tasks, we're in an assessment block for years 9 and 11 at the moment, and we have adjusted the assessment tasks to accommodate remote learning. And we will continue to do this as we move through our time in this space, and the assessment tasks will take into consideration the fact that students are learning from home and that they may not have access to the same amount of things that they would at school. And so it's important that we continue to assess learning. There are different ways that we will do this, and you'll notice that students at the beginning of next term will have their assessment tasks published to them for the whole term, and they will be able to work through that in a really measured, consistent way, so it doesn't feel overwhelming. So let's take ourselves out of the COVID-19 space and talk about recruitment at our school. We've got some positions that have been filled permanently, and you'll notice that on the screen some of these teachers were with us in a temporary capacity, and they were absolutely sensational and have been able to be successful at interview to get the job permanently. So we welcome Betty Singh to our English department as a classroom teacher. Paige Bishop, many of you have had Paige teaching your children in science over the last 18 months. She's joining us permanently. And Fabian Rosario is also joining the science faculty, and he's a new appointment to our school. PDHPE, Nick Adams is joining us permanently. He's been a long-term temporary member of our school, and we're delighted to have him join us in that permanent capacity. And Ashley Collins is also a new appointment to our school. We have a new administration manager, that's Jackie Beaumont. She comes to us from Nepean Kappa High School. And we also are delighted to have Brooke Miller, another long-term temporary member of our SLSO force, is joining our school in a permanent capacity. So we welcome all of them, and we know that for the vast majority of them, their work has already stood them in good stead. So we look forward to getting to know the new faces, Fabian, Ashley and Jackie. So let's now have a look at the major refurbishments. We're hoping that all of our major projects will be able to continue during the pandemic, and we'll just see how that goes. But we've got 4 things on the go at the moment. The commercial kitchens build has already started, and the demolition of the old kitchens has already happened. So they are now a distant memory for all of us, which is a good thing, given that they were circa 1976 and they hadn't really changed in all of that time. So we're looking at a 16-week build there, so long as we can continue to source the components for the kitchens. Some of those components are coming out of China, and it's good to hear that, you know, they're getting back to normal. It just depends on how long it takes us to get those things here in place. So the library insurance works, they've started as well. They started last week. That's a really long project because there are insurance works there, and then there's the innovation project that goes with that, that will piggyback onto the insurance works. We've been without a library now for over 12 months, and it's good to know that hopefully when we all get back together in this space, that we will have the most beautiful library in Western Sydney. So stay tuned on that one. The Cooler Classrooms project has finally come to Cambridge Park, and it looks like, you know, if we can continue to remain open and things going ahead, that come summer in 2020, we're likely to be a whole lot cooler than we've ever been. So that project's likely to take 15 weeks. It's already started. And we look forward to that being completed on track. There's also an upgrade to our school security, and that's across all of the blocks, and it will link our alarm system to our gates and to all of the CCTV coverage that we have as well. There's a minor upgrade also happening as we speak in the drama and dance room, making that into a black box theatre down there. So that's happening, and that's just about complete. So it'll be fantastic next time we live stream to be able to show you what that looks like. And so that's about it from me today. We're looking forward to doing a live stream each week to catch up with the changes that are happening. We're in a space that's quite fast moving, so the lines of communication help us to be able to be all on the same page, and so that's why we're going to move to weekly live streams just while things are moving quite quickly. And so we'll look forward to seeing you at the same time next week if we can. And right now I'm going to hand over to Claire McGee, our deputy, who's looking after welfare this year as her special project, as in addition to all of the usual DP things that she does. But in this space, looking after each other is pretty important. So she's got some really great tips that she's going to go through with you now.
Okay, good morning everybody. First of all, I would like to say that I understand that this is a very difficult time for everybody, for the students, the parents, and all for the staff at the school as well. We understand that. We understand that things might be difficult at home. It may be stressful for your children, not understanding everything that's happening at the moment around the world, and some of the images and things they may be seeing on the television can be quite distressing for them. And so we thought it was a good idea just to give you some tips on how you can manage your own health, but also the health of your child. So I put a little PowerPoint together just to go through some things for you, and I hope that you find it helpful. Okay, so first of all, we wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, students are going to be asking about COVID-19, and we put together just a few tips, there's 10 of them, on the type of things that you might want to think about when you're speaking to your child or your children about how they're feeling, etc. So to some degree, I think it's important that you understand that they will see things. You won't necessarily be able to control everything that they read or see, whether it's on the internet, on the television, or what their friends are sharing with them. But it is important that you do actually stick to the facts. ask them some questions. What do they know? What do they think they know? And go through that with them fairly clearly about what is actually the case, because there will be a whole range of things coming out about, there's a cure out there isn't a cure, this is what happens, this is how you catch COVID-19, etc. And so it's important that you stick to the facts. And New South Wales Health has a great app or website which has up-to-date information. So please, put it on your phone if necessary, or check in fairly regularly, because that will be where you're getting the best information, as opposed to necessarily on the news or various other shows on TV, etc. I think it's also important really to reassure your children, using language that reflects their age, obviously. Don't be too technical. Make sure that it's pretty simple for children to understand, so that they're not overly scared. And admit that you don't have all the answers. None of us do. The health department doesn't have all the answers either, because it's an ongoing issue and an ongoing event, and things change daily. So reassure them. I think that's really important. And talk to them about the fact that, at this point, the medical information indicates that their age group is an age group that is less likely to get sick. But that doesn't mean to say as a parent that couldn't happen, but that you've got things in place. So often children just need to be reassured about what's going to happen in their own family, in their own lives. They may not be in a position where they're able to see their grandparents as often as they may have in the past. All of those things can impact on a child's well-being, and it's really important that we continue to reassure and support them that you're, in the way that you can, about what you have in place to make sure that they're going to be okay and that you're going to be okay as well. And of course, the obvious things is to follow the directions from New South Wales Health about what we need to do to try and stay as healthy as possible. Whether it's washing their hands, make sure you observe them doing that. Make sure if you're going out to the shops, for example, and they're going with you, that you wash your hands before you go, and you wash your hands as soon as you get home again after they've been to the shops or wherever it might have been. So following those guidelines from the department is really important. Making sure that we're keeping that distance as outlined from the health department, in terms of when you're out shopping, or when if they're catching up with other members of the family or people they might know, that they do keep that distance, because we know around the world every health department from every other country is saying that's the thing that can really help to reduce contact, and therefore reduce the spread of the virus. Is that timed? No, there we go, sorry. One of the things that we feel is also really important, and Miss McPhail touched on that as well, when she talks about following timetable, having students follow their processes. If they're doing maths is period 2, then that's what they should be studying on Canvas. But it's keeping the whole day as regular as possible, because that provides stability. And that stability in a child's life, we know, is something that really helps them to feel calm, to feel less anxiety when they see things happening at home in as normal a routine as is possible. And I've given those sort of tips a little later on. You'll see about getting up, getting dressed, and all of those sorts of things as well. Try to spend time each day doing something positive. It's very easy for us all to get into the mindset of focusing completely on COVID-19 and the impact of that on each of us and our families. But it's important to make sure that you do spend time doing things that are enjoyable as well, and trying to get that balance right. Whether it's reading with your child, playing a game of some sort, getting them to do an activity that they actually enjoy, etc. That helps reduce their level of anxiety, and also provides that sort of opportunity for them to talk about how they might be feeling or questions they might have, without making it the big talk, making it something that's too heavy and they feel pressured about. Okay. So make sure that they really are talking about those things with you in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So try not to put too much pressure on them. Be aware that often, especially if you have younger children, they may want that close contact with you. Obviously, you need to make sure that all of the hygiene things are in place as well, but it doesn't mean to say you can't touch your children. So please make sure that they do feel that they can have that contact with you, and that they feel that support as well. And of course, one of the most important things I think as a parent, because we're all very good at looking after our children, looking after other people, but sometimes we're not always so great at looking after ourselves. And so, one of the things is that it's really important is that you actually listen to your body, listen to what it's telling you, make sure you do put time in place for yourself so that you can look after yourself. And if you're anxious or worried about things, there are agencies and services who can support you as a parent as well as looking after your child. As I said a little while ago, sticking to routine is really important. It's not always easy to do, especially as this is a new area for all of us in terms of having children at home learning. But if we can get those routines in place, that's really important for children, and it tries to create the world a sense of normality around their lives, which when necessarily isn't the case outside. So making sure that they get up at the usual time, having a healthy breakfast is really important, following their school timetable as much as possible for the 5 hours of learning that we'll do normally at school, and taking those normal breaks, that recess and lunch, and making sure they have something healthy, and possibly eating outside if they have a backyard, to make sure that they sit outside and get some fresh air is really important. And also doing some physical activity of some sort. It might be that when they get up, maybe they take the dog for a walk, for example, or they're running around the backyard if necessary, getting rid of some of that excess energy when they've been sitting at their laptops working on Canvas work. Keep snacking to a minimum, so try and avoid too many of the Tim Tams, perhaps. And if they are having a snack in between, perhaps make it a nice piece of fruit or something like that if possible. And of course, the most important, not only for your children, but also for you, is to get a good night's sleep. It's the one thing that's really important, we know, for our physical well-being, but it's really important for our mental well-being as well. Staying connected. One of the things I think that students might struggle with is not being able to spend time with their friends in the usual way, but it's really important that they are connected to their friends. And that can be, in the unusual forms of social media, in terms of the platforms that they normally use. Please make sure that, what they're doing when they're talking to their friends or others is respectful. So we need to make sure that the language that we're using is appropriate, that people are not being stressed or criticised in any way, but that when they're talking to people they know on those social platforms, that it is in a positive way. So please monitor that. But you might want to think a little bit outside that. If you have a gamer in your house, for example, it might be that you might be able to help them search for some gaming communities or sporting communities, because obviously there's no external sport happening at the moment in terms of the rugby league team or the football team or whatever team they actually support. But there may be communities out there who are happy to chat and talk about things, and that might be a good way of them interacting with others and maybe making new friends. But we do advise that you actually make sure that what they're looking at and who they're talking to keeps them safe. So please monitor those sorts of things closely. If you're talking to family, if you have the facilities on your devices to either Skype or to talk in different formats, what a great way to see somebody. And sometimes just seeing somebody, a family member who you haven't been able to catch up with in person, is a really good way of impacting on the mood and the well-being of people. But again, depending on which device you use or which service you use, please monitor it. Some services we know often have advertising around them that actually can be inappropriate, and you need to make sure that it reflects your appropriate value system and is appropriate for your child's age group. So, look after those things, and if you need more tips on that, don't hesitate to ring the school and we'll see what we can do to support you. Staying calm, not always easy. And we've had some great stories already from some parents saying, that's it. I'm over homeschooling, as they've called it. But it is about making sure that you do look after your health and try to stay calm as well. And I've just given a couple of tips that might be useful for you to think about in terms of your own mindfulness. So, yoga is a great way to relax. It can help keep you calm. It also can boost your mood. And it is something, if you can see it, there's whole programs on television, you can see it on computers, on YouTube, lots of organisations and people put up yoga exercises for people to do. And you can do it with your kids if you want. So it's a great way of building your relationships, keeping those strong and healthy relationships together. but also it can also enhance your mood and to help you to stay calm and relaxed when things can get a little stressful. Writing a journal is something else that I'm an English teacher, so writing a journal comes easy for me, but it's something to think about. And students often feel that they can want to express how they're feeling, but not necessarily in front of another person. And so doing that when they're writing something can be important for them, where they feel they can talk about how they're feeling, their anxiety or happiness. It can be a whole range of things. But always make sure, please, that you do keep those doors open for communication, and that your child knows that even if they are writing a journal, it doesn't mean they can't talk to you, because that's really important. We don't want somebody to feel that they can only put something down on paper and they're not in a position where they can really have that chat. Look at your social media. I think you'll find that students may be on social media a bit more than they have been in the past, perhaps because they are at home. But it's important that you think about what they're actually looking at. We want them to be looking at things that actually are not impacting their mental health in any way. And so it's really important, what do they normally look at? Is it that they need to maybe think about unfollowing certain organisations or certain groups or certain people because the information is negative? And so you need to make sure that balance is in place. Feeling productive. I've said that, and I know I can see students saying, we're looking in the garden, doing gardening, or actually rearranging my room and cleaning the cupboard. I'm not sure that's something they might want to buy into, but I have to say, it often can be very rewarding. I know that one thing that I do, if I feel I'm getting a bit edgy or whatever, I often have rearranged my lounge room furniture, at which point my 29-year-old says to me, "Did you change, did you, Mum?" And I go, "Yes, I did." And it often makes you feel better. And kids often can do that in their own rooms, for example. They might want to rearrange, if they're at home, rearrange their study area, where they're going to be working from. They might want to clean out their cupboards and make it tidy. And when it looks nice for them, they'll feel calmer and often feel much more positive about sitting down in that room to do their work. So just think of some of those things perhaps might be good for your child. Maybe if you haven't got a veggie patch or a herb patch in your backyard, you might want to think about getting that, assuming you can get into Bunnings to pick up some seedlings, and do that with your kids, and then they'll see something growing, so something very positive for them, or some flowers. When a time when things are negative and it's not about positivity, having something that they can actually visually see growing, and something that becomes beautiful to look at or smells lovely or that they can then use in cooking, can be something that's very calming and very productive for a child. Okay, so stress at home. We know it can be stressful. Life is stressful on a good day, because we're all usually very busy, we've all got too much on, there's not enough time to do what we want to do. There's all these external pressures. But we've actually, gone from one extreme to the other in many respects. In terms of not having enough time, it may be that there's too much time for kids, especially when they're at home. And so we need to think about how we're going to manage that. It's easy for students in particular to feel very cooped up. They're accustomed to, leaving the house in a set time, coming home later, having 5 or 6 hours away from the home. All of that has changed for them. And when you've got 4 or 5, 6, 7 people in the home all day, it may mean that things can become a little tense. And so as parents, I feel it's important that we all look at how we can diffuse some of those things. And so when arguments arise, and I'm not going to tell you they won't, maybe it's an opportunity to walk away from a situation when you feel the tension is rising, go for a walk, go into the backyard, just have a breather, and try and diffuse the situation, and then have the discussion about what it might have been if it was important once everybody's had an opportunity to calm down. There will be things that will change. There'll be more washing up to do probably. There may be that, it's my turn, I wanted to watch this on television, or I wanted to play this particular game on the PlayStation or on the computer. And so it might be appropriate to have a roster in place so that there is seen to be equity at the beginning and everybody knows they're getting their opportunity to speak up and have their voice heard, regardless of their age. And at that point, that may help to reduce some of the tension in the house. And I think, as I said before, it's important that as parents you look after your own health, and you need to give yourself some personal time. whether it's just having, half an hour to go and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee by yourself or whatever it might be in the backyard, or whatever you feel is relaxing for you, but make sure that you do put that into the day's events and give yourself that opportunity to have that rest, because then you'll be in a better position to support your child and do your best to look after them. The other thing I think is also is really important is to maybe try and have that balance. Don't have every conversation about COVID-19 or about the impact. I know that's difficult, especially if people are impacted in terms of employment, finances, etc. But to try and have some sort of balance and a sense of normality. And that can be that, we're not going to talk about it for the next hour. I'm not going to watch that news item. I'm not going to do whatever it might be, and we're just going to do something different. Have other resources if you can, and we're happy to provide you with some if you haven't got them. So books available for your child to read. We've got a whole range of things that we can provide in areas like that. Board games as a family, sit down, play Monopoly, or whatever it is you like to play. You'd be surprised, often kids actually are accustomed to not doing those things, and sometimes it's nice to go back, which you might have done when they were a bit younger. But you'll find that they actually probably enjoy that because they're together as a family, they're able to chit-chat, talk about other things, laugh, etc. together. And I put family nights watching a film together. That was something I always did with my kids when they were younger, and I used to try and make the sitting room or the lounge room look like a cinema, so the lights were out, we had popcorn, and the child would choose the film, but it was that we were together. And so that can be something, and often maybe if it is stressful, choose something that makes them laugh and makes you laugh. It's a great way of reducing tension. And so there's just a few things, and I'm sure you've got lots of others, and we'd love to hear from you. If you've got some good ideas that we can share with other people, please let us know. But we feel it's important to try and get as much of a balance as you can in your lives under these very difficult times. Okay, so if you do feel, though, that you need extra support, apart from the school, who will be having staff here until we're told not to, there will be staff here every day until the 9th of April for this term, and then we go into school holidays for 2 weeks. And so the phone number is up there, 47316722, just in case you didn't know it. But I've also put a list of some other services, so if you are concerned about your child's mental health or your own, and you feel you need to get some support, there's a few services there that will be able to provide online or by telephone support, and we will be adding more to them as time goes on to help support you. Okay, so that's it from me more or less. I just do have a couple of other things I wanted to mention. The newsletter will be coming out hopefully this week or early next week. Sorry, I'm not in line, I am in now. Okay, and so you'll see that the newsletter has information about things that have happened in the past. We will keep you updated as much as we can on COVID-19. And we'll be putting some things like bell times, so you know how to follow what times the normal day at school would run, and some information around those sorts of things will be up for you. I've also got some other wellbeing services that may be available, and there's some sheets from the department and some sheets from places like Headspace, and so we'll be putting those up on Facebook as well, and some of those will be in the newsletter too. I would like to just say one thing. I'd like to thank everybody. We've had some wonderful emails, some wonderful messages on Facebook from parents thanking the staff at the school for all their hard work and their support. And I can tell you now, the staff really appreciate those messages. It's been nice to be able to share them with the staff and say, oh, we've received this. So, parents are saying what a great job we're doing and how we've been as supportive as we can be. And that's really nice because they're able to go home to their families and be able to share that information and feel valued at school. And that's really important for our staff too. So thank you for those kind messages. We do appreciate them. And all I can say is look after yourselves and keep in touch. Thank you.
Can I just jump in and also say from me?
Sorry.
That's okay. I might just hold it. Is that we've always been a really resilient community, and I think that you're going to do an amazing job looking after your kids at home during this pandemic. And I just thank you so much for the support that you've given all of us here. And we as always, we'll return that in kind. So if there's anything you need from us, please let us know and we will go out of our way to make your life as easy as possible during this time. So thanks very much and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.